Greetings, everyone. It is Linda Talaferro from the T, the Extra Effort, and it is Transformational Tuesday. I know you hear me say this often because I can't ever get enough of saying that this is my favorite time of the week. I so enjoy coming on and sharing with you some nuggets to help you along your career journey. For those of you who are just getting to know me, again, Linda Talaferro from the T, the Extra Effort, career advisory, where I help people get unstuck in their careers so they can ascend to whatever that seat at the table they aspire to ascend. And so I am going to be talking about tonight and the next two Transformational Tuesdays. I'm going to be talking about executive presence. It's been a while since I've talked about this specific piece of being a leader, this part that is so important, and oftentimes most people are not even aware of it. They either heard of it and it's this mystique, this thing that they don't think is necessary, or they haven't even heard of it at all. And so I want to revisit it tonight and the next couple of Tuesdays when I'm going to share some details around it. So today, we're talking about there's actually three components. I'll share this with you. So there's three components of executive presence: gravitas, communication, and appearance. Gravitas being the largest component of the three, meaning it has the heaviest weight. But the two that I'm going to talk about today are sometimes overlooked and minimized. And actually, one of them could be a deal breaker in you being viewed as an executive, a person that is ready for a higher leadership role or has that essence about them. And that's really what executive presence is. Some people call it an it factor. It is that nuance, that special something that certain people have, and you see it when they walk in the room, or you get it when they speak. It's just something about them. And so I'm going to share with you today the other two aspects, the smaller components of executive presence, and that is communication and appearance. So, first of all, if you want to make sure that you're exuding executive presence, first thing you want to do is be clear in your communication. The worst thing you can be is a person that lacks conciseness, that you tend to ramble on, that it takes you forever to get to a point, that people get lost trying to figure out what dots they should be connecting when you're presenting or when you're speaking. Or even if you're in a meeting and you're making a point, make sure you do so concisely, quickly, be able to fully communicate your point without going on and on and on. And I know some people think there's a lot of value in using $5 words. I will tell you, no, there isn't. The best thing you can do, frankly, is keep it simple. Now, if your vocabulary is broad, absolutely so. Use those words, but make sure you're not losing the room, which is the other piece I want to talk to. When you're communicating, be able to read the room. Make sure that you're connecting with the people that you're presenting or talking to, and that they're on the bus with you. And you can tell people give body language and eye contact. Sometimes you see someone's head nod, or you see somebody really engaged. They're intently sitting up in their seat. You're speaking, they're really connected. That lets you know that you've got the room. If you don't sweat it. It's not an issue. Recognize you don't have the room and shift. Make the shift, whether it's bring your point to an end and follow up later, or shift in a different direction and trying to make your point so that you regain the room. So it's not a big deal if you've lost it, just know how to regain it. So being clear and concise in your communication and being able to read the room. Another part of communicating at a level of high executive presence that most people do not believe is valuable is admitting when you make a mistake. There is power in owning our issues, owning our mistakes. There's power in saying, you know what? I misspoke. last week and gave you some wrong information, or the data that I provided, I should have vetted it one more time, and because I didn't, it actually was off by 10% or by 20%. And so being able to recognize the mistakes that you've made shows your level of intellect and your leadership ability. It really does. I mean, no, you've heard me say this often, no one's perfect. There's no one perfect out here. And if we pretend that we are, it's a fallacy and people see straight through it. But the fact that you are able to own it and move on shows your authenticity and speaks to your integrity. You know, you've heard this saying, fake it till you make it. Well, with executive presence, that's not a good approach to take, because as I just said a few minutes ago, people can actually see when someone's not being honest. They can see through the facade, because that's exactly the definition of the facade, and people can see through it. So if you want to exhibit executive presence, own it, own your mistakes, and keep it moving. Another part of exuding high executive presence is keeping things simple. You know, I know some people that I've worked with in the past. Some of you may know people you work with today that believe that if they stand on a mound of pontificating, and if you're listening to my podcast, you're not seeing me put my arms in the air, but just, you know, pontificating their greatness. It's always about them and what they brought to the table, or their intellect, or the school they went to, or the this, that, and the other, or as I said earlier, the $5, $10 words. And those type of people, you never hear what they have to say. You miss if there's any value because they got all that other crap coming with them. That's not executive presence, frankly. And I know I use the word crap because that's what it boils down to. It's not executive presence. That keeping it simple has value. You don't have to add if it's unnecessary to do so, to make the point have more value, or to make what you bring to the table have a higher worth, because you add a bunch of surrounding whatever that has nothing, that brings no value with it. Keep it simple. Keep it simple, straight and to the point. It's always best. And then the one part I want to talk about today, and you heard me mention the three components: gravitas, communication, and now I want to talk a little bit about appearance. Appearance is actually the component of executive presence that most people disregard or they totally misunderstand. So I'm sure when you hear appearance, you're thinking dress, you're thinking style, you're thinking it has to be this designer that, or the shoes have to be such, or whatever. It's you believe you're I know immediately when we hear appearance, we're thinking of the outward part of the person. And true, there is some value to being put together, flat out. There's value. I mean, that's fundamental. We know that as professionals. There's value to being put together, there's value to grooming. But I'm not talking about going out and buying that $5,000 suit. That doesn't automatically translate to executive presence. I'm not even talking about the best shoes or certain accessories. What I'm really talking about when it comes to appearance is, how do you handle yourself? What is your body language saying when you're in the room? That's the appearance piece. That's part of executive presence. Are your shoulders slumped? Are you always frowning? Do you have your arms crossed? I'm sure you may have heard this, but having your arms crossed is a symbol that you are not open. And it sends a message to people that he or she We can't connect with them. They're not willing to collaborate. Your body language is powerful. It can definitely send the wrong message. It's all about how you sit in your chair, even. Are you slumped? Are you leaning sideways? Is your head in your hands? That's sending a message that I'm not even interested in what's going on right now. So when you think of the three components, I'm going to spend a lot more time on gravitas in a couple of weeks. But when you think of these three components, don't discount appearance. Next Tuesday, I'll break down the weighted percentages of each, and you're going to find appearance is probably like, I think, around 3% of what the studies have shown to be part of executive presence. But it's that 3% that can make or break you. So pay attention. Clearly be put together, but pay attention as to how you show up, even in your one-on-ones. When you're having your one-on-ones and you're building your network of advocates and supporters, how are you showing up? Are you open? Are you engaged? Or do you have a scowl on your face, or are you inviting by just your facial expression? Those all play a critical role in translating to, yes, I am a leader. Yes, I have executive presence, and therefore I am ready for this next opportunity. So, a brief recap before I end for tonight. Talking about executive presence, making sure you're clear and concise in your communication. You can read the room. You keep it simple. You're not using those $10, $50 words. And you're being very, very conscientious, forthright, and admitting your mistakes. And then you're showing up with the appearance that says, yes, I'm present, I'm engaged, I'm in the room, I bring value, I have something to offer. And oh, by the way, I'm also interested in what you have to offer as well. That tonight is how we're going to kick off executive presence. I said I was going to be talking about this for the next 2 Tuesdays. It's something that my private group members have been asking for. Some of you have reached out to me in IG and also in Facebook with DMs asking about it. And so I'm happy to spend some time over these next 2 Tuesdays demystifying this thing called executive presence, because we all definitely, if you don't have it, we all definitely can get it. Absolutely. See you next Tuesday.